It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with Diana Pardee on tech. Every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., we turn our Facebook page over to a new author to talk about their books and their work. This morning, we are pleased to have with us Connie di Marco. Connie is the author of the Zodiac Mysteries, featuring Julia Bonatti, a San Francisco astrologer who never thought murder would be part of her practice. Writing is Connie Archer. She's the national bestselling author of the Soup Lovers Mystery from Berkeley Prime Crime. That's not easy to say. I'll work on that. Her recipes and excerpts can be found in the Mystery Writers of America Cookbook, which is behind me, which I had purchased long before today, and the Cozy Cookbook. Connie is a member of the Crime Writers Association UK, Mystery Writers of America, and the International Thriller Writers, as well as Sisters in Crime. Welcome, Connie.
Thank you, Maddie. Thanks for having me.
Well, as I said, I think our paths have crossed, and we were not aware of that somewhere in the past, but I'm really interested in people who can write multiple series and get involved and then move on to something totally different and live in different worlds. So why don't we talk about the mystery series that you're working on now, the Zodiac?
Sure.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Well, I lived in San Francisco for many years, and people talk about LA being the capital of noir. I think it's San Francisco more so than LA.
Oh, controversial. We're starting with controversy right away.
There's lots of people that would disagree with me, although I think Michael Connelly does a great job with Bosch, definitely. But San Francisco, there are so many writers who have set their books in San Francisco. John Lescroart, for example, Kelly Stanley. I don't know if you're familiar with her books.
Yeah.
But it's a city with lots of fog and lots of dark alleys and lots of different faces and incredible views. So I really wanted to set the Zodiac Mysteries there. And I wanted my protagonist to have a very unusual occupation that would put her in touch with lots of different people from different walks of life. And of course, she's an amateur sleuth. She's not a cop. And this series is, I categorize it as a traditional mystery series with darker elements. That's how I think.
Interesting. So that's Julia Bonatti, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And
so she's an astrologer.
Right.
So let's talk about that. I'm sure that's an interesting story. How did that come about? And did you learn a lot, or did you already know about that when you started writing the mysteries series?
Well, I'm not a professional astrologer. I would consider myself a self-taught amateur, but I've read books for years. And I first got interested in astrology when I was in college. My mother died very suddenly with no warning. And it was a very tough time for me, for my dad. It came as a great shock. And at that time, a good friend of mine said to me, I went to a party in Cambridge. I met an amateur astrologer and she's looking for people to practice on. Come with me. And she won't charge us. She just wants people to study. So I said, no, I don't really feel like it. And she took me by the neck and dragged me. And it was one of those times in life that was an extremely heavy time for me. And we sat at her kitchen table. She set up my chart and she saw the emotional tone that I was living through. And she predicted exactly when it would end. And she went on with some other predictions. And of course, at the time, I was stunned. And I thought, yeah, that would be wonderful if that happens. And I left with kind of a question mark in my head. And she was absolutely right. She was accurate. And I thought, my God, I have to learn more about this, how she did this. Of course, now I know how she did it. But, and at that time, of course, it was years ago, I'm dating myself. There weren't a lot of astrology bookstores or occult bookstores in Boston at the time where I went to school. And so I bought whatever I could find. There was no internet, so it wasn't possible to shop online. And it took me quite a while to gather a library of astrology books and study myself. So I knew a lot going in, and I knew enough that I didn't have to go back and research for Julia's sake. So that's how it all started.
Interesting. And so because you know so much about astrology and you're writing a mystery, are you ever tempted to go down that astrology rabbit hole in in detriment to the plot, or do you have to do you have to be careful to keep those elements in check, or how does that work for you?
I really try to keep them in check, because you can definitely go down a rabbit hole and you're going to bore the hell out of anybody who.
Because it's complicated. It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I discovered that a lot of astrologers have read these books and written to me and called me out when I made a mistake.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was reviewed, I think, by a couple of astrology magazines. Mountain Astrologer was one. But somebody said there's a scene where Julia attends psychic fairs at her friend's shop called the Mystic Eye. And in one of these scenes, a young woman walks in who's very terrified. She has a marriage plan. She's terrified of getting married. And I did not specifically state in the book that she gave Julia her birth time. And somebody wrote and said, well, how could Julia possibly know that her progressed moon was hitting her ascendant if she didn't give her the birth time? So I said, well, I forgot to put that in. So from that point on, I'm really careful about what I say, and I try very hard not to overdo it. But for all of my important characters, the victim, the murderer, I set up a natal chart. It takes a while to experiment with that and get just the right kind of chart that will work for the book. And I really try not to go down that rabbit hole, although I'm sure there's a few people who maybe thought I did. I don't know.
Wow, that's so interesting. So okay, how many books are in the series? And I know we were talking before, you have a new one coming out. Do you want to bring everybody up to date on that? Or?
Yeah, there's 3 that have been re-released by my new publisher. And I'll hold up pictures if you like.
Oh, sure.
The first one is called The Madness of Mercury. And I have a wonderful cover designer, and I wanted to
love that.
Yeah, I wanted to use Telegraph Hill and Quake Tower. The second one in the series is called All Signs Point to Murder. Can you see that with no reflection? Yeah. And if you look,
are those all San Francisco in the?
Yeah, I try to incorporate San Francisco without too much of the Golden Gate Bridge, because everybody overdoes that.
Right.
And this third one is called Tale of the Dragon. And the one that's just been released, and unfortunately I don't have a print to hold up, it's called Enter a Wizard Stage Left, and it's a prequel to the whole series. And the next one to come out is Serpent's Doom in April. And then in the 5th book, Julia will solve the mystery of how her and why her fiance was killed.
Wow. So you have the whole arc of the story of the series laid out in when you wrote that first book. Did you intend for this to be what would that be, 7 books?
Well, this will be when the one comes out in April, that will be 4 full-length novels and a novella, and number 5 will make it 5 full-length novels. Did
you intend for it to be a series? Or
I did. I think I was thinking of maybe 3, but it's been so interesting to write this series that I just feel that she has a lot more adventures, urban adventures, dark adventures to follow.
So just so people get an idea, tell us a little more about Julia. What do you like about her, and what don't you like about her as a character?
Well, she doesn't listen very well. She's a very stubborn Sagittarian. And
so is that something we like about her?
Yeah, that is something we like, because I am a Sag.
Of course.
Yeah. She was very devastated after the death of her fiance in a hit-and-run accident, and it took her quite a while to get back on her feet. She stumbled into astrology in the process of getting back onto her feet. And I don't think there's much I don't like about Julia. I think I really like Julia. She's very spunky. She doesn't take no for an answer. She really, really tries to help her clients. She does not want to get involved in crime particularly, but invariably the troubles that are dumped on her doorstep pull her into the mystery, and she ultimately solves the mystery, usually with astrological clues.
So are there certain types of mysteries that are Julia Mysteries, and then are there mysteries that she would never engage in? I mean, when you look at the plots and ideas for future books, is there like a classic mystery for her, or does she get involved in all different sorts of mysteries?
It's very. She does get involved in all sorts of mysteries. She will probably not get involved in a culinary cozy mystery.
No crossover from your soup lovers mystery.
No crossover. The first book, The Madness of Mercury, is loosely based on the Jim Jones years in San Francisco.
Oh.
And I was living there at the time and didn't pay much attention to Jim Jones or the People's Temple, but I certainly woke up when the congressman was shot. Leo Ryan was killed, and Jackie Spear, our representative from California, was shot also, but she survived. And I wrote that book because I've always been fascinated and appalled by the mindset of people who will give over their lives to a cult of any sort. And in this particular cult, my character is, he has a show called Prophet TV, and PROPHET, which a lot of people joke and call it Prophet, PROPHET.
Right.
But he particularly targets, he's a complete fraud, and he particularly targets the wealthy and the elderly. And it's through one of Julia's clients, who's wealthy and elderly, that she first learns about this cult. And one of the elderly sisters gets seduced into a commune that he runs up in Mendocino, and her life is at risk. And I don't want to say it.
Right. No, that's yeah. So what really quickly, since we're running out of time, but what is it about Julia that makes her go beyond what the average person might do, that I guess attracts her to these mysteries and to get involved?
Maybe she's lacking a little common sense or caution.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There we go.
Otherwise, why would she get involved? Maybe she's a bit like a pit bull and can't let it go, but also she genuinely cares about her clients. And I think it's her heart that keeps her involved and keeps her questioning and investigating. And of course, with an amateur sleuth, you have a little bit more of a problem in that they're not cops, so they're not invited into the murder scene. Right. So that's always tricky with an amateur sleuth. And every crime is fairly dark.
Well, we're getting, I think we have a good sense of her and the series. And I think anybody who's looking for a great mystery and maybe is interested in astrology or would love to learn anything about something new, this sounds like a great series for them. And where can people find your books, Connie?
Pretty much anywhere. You can order them online through many indie shops like Book Carnival or Green Apple in San Francisco. I try to market the books as much as possible in San Francisco. You can find it on Amazon, and really easy. Okay, well, great. We wish you a lot of luck with your upcoming book. We hope you'll come back. We're going to put links to your book and to your website in the comment section. So if anybody has questions for Connie or comments, she's going to be checking. So you can engage with her after this conversation. So if you enjoyed today's interview, there are more interviews like this on our SCWA Writers Online YouTube channel. And we hope that you'll like, subscribe, comment, and do all those things the kids say about YouTube and Facebook so we can continue to do these interviews. So thank you very much, Connie. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Everybody else, stay safe.